Hello everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space for all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogans: support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments, both socially and politically, that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Monday. We actually just dropped a thought piece this past Monday, so definitely be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you're looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available wherever podcasts are playing, and we've provided you with access to a few links down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe, hit that post notification bell so that you're aware of every time we post. And again, if you are interested in taking the reins in your life, and if you're interested in self-discovery and in self-mastery and in finding that inner alignment in life, then this is the community for you. Join the community of game changers. And if I've given you content that you find is of value, definitely give us a follow. Let's get into today's topic. Allô les mecs et les mecs. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And our topic of discussion today is mental health. On the conversation on mental health, I'm going to be talking about the critical importance of stillness. I want to have a conversation around stillness because it is often the most overlooked and undervalued aspect of dealing with and of managing a high-stress, high-intensity life. And so all of us have the ability, have the capacity to lead high stress, high intensity lives, right? There's not a specific prototype for it, right? Like you could be a stay-at-home mommy, you have a high stress, high intensity life. You could be someone who is juggling career and your own passion projects, and you could have a high stress, high intensity life. Or you could be going through a critical life event, a serious life event that involves managing high stress and high intensity. And oftentimes we try to operate in a state of frenzy, but it's hard to think when you're emotional. It's hard to think when you feel scattered, when you feel like you don't have control over the factors around you. And so I want to talk a little bit about stillness, about the importance of stillness, about how stillness has played a significant role in my own personal survival journey. So for those of you who aren't aware, I had spent 4 years living practically on the run, being stalked by my professor at my MBA professor. So I do have an MBA from the University of Toronto, Rotman School of Management. And I spent 4 years fleeing essentially, which ended up also being me fleeing the country. So I fled Canada and I found an opportunity to build a home here in Portugal. Now, it was a bit of a long-winded road. I started out in Portugal. I moved a little bit to Frankfurt. I moved a little bit to London, spent some time in passing in Brussels, but then found my way back to Portugal, and here's where I'm making my home. But I have to say, when I think about all of what took place over the last 4 years, one of the constant threads that I feel ultimately led to my success, one of many, of course, we'll get through them in probably different videos, is my practice of stillness, me recognizing that when things get really intense, when the stress is really high, rather than feel completely discombobulated and completely scattered and out of control, I focus on what I could control, which was my response. And how I could control my response was really focusing on maximizing on stillness, because from stillness, I can not just think critically about the situation around me, but think creatively. I could find that inner alignment that enabled me to really think about what my next steps were and do things in a way that most maximize maximize my chance of survival and that best aligned me to what was best for me in those specific situations. And so I want to talk a little bit about this practice of stillness, because oftentimes we think stillness and we think about physical stillness. We think about just staying still. But we've all been in that situation where we're forced physically to stay still, but our minds are racing. So when we talk about the practice of stillness, is about mental, emotional, and spiritual stillness. And from that place of stillness, we can find ourselves alignment. And from that place of alignment, we give ourselves the ability to get clear about what it is that we need from ourselves. And I'm someone who is a big proponent of learning. I am a lifelong learner. I believe that education is something that doesn't start or finish in an academic setting. It's something that we drive on our own in and outside of formal learning environments. But I also am a believer of the fact that each of us holds an inner wisdom. We hold the inner wisdom of the people who came before us. And a lot of this can be substantiated with history. When we think about our trauma responses, when we think about our fear responses, a lot of it is historically, it's infused, kind of coded in our DNA. And so I like to consider this to be inner wisdom that we have access to in stillness, right? So rather than having knee-jerk reactions in situations that really require strategic precision, we can leverage that strategic precision from a place of stillness. So I want to give you 3 practices that you should engage in if you find that you yourself live a high-stress, high-intensity life, however it is the case that you define it. And again, like, there's no comparison here. Like, all of us, the lives we lead often involves multiple hats, or maybe the one hat that is super intense. But in all cases, stillness is such a prerequisite. It's a prerequisite to not burn out. It's a prerequisite to feel healthy, to feel whole, to feel capable, and able to deal with the things that you have in front of you. And also, like, if you're a goal chaser, if you're someone who has a vision and you have dreams, then better believe you need that stillness to get clear on what it is that you need to do to bring that dream into fruition. So that's the preamble, that's the introduction, that's me giving you the pitch as to why stillness is something that you want to integrate into your life. But now I'm going to give you some ways of doing it. And so the number one most crucial way of practicing stillness is getting in your body. And so a lot of us don't know what that means. What does it mean to get in our body? It means being present, right? And so we hear being present, we immediately think, okay, like yogi, spiritual, new age. And I'm not at all suggesting that. I'm just talking about giving yourself an opportunity where you get out of your head and into your body. You start to ask yourself how you're feeling and give yourself an opportunity to do a body scan and respond. And so when you do that body scan, when you're practicing stillness, you're experiencing alignment because all of you are focused on you. And so it's important that when we do ask ourselves, well, how are we doing? We give ourselves the opportunity to respond. If we don't ask ourselves often enough, expect the response to be slow. Expect to have that moment where you're scanning and you're kind of paying attention to how you feel, how the different parts of your body feel, and you're giving yourself a time to come up with an answer. And that's a sense of clarity. The sense of clarity is the response to the question that you ask yourself. And the best way to build that muscle, to develop that muscle, is to ask yourself how you're feeling and then do a body scan. Give yourself 10 minutes to wait and feel how it is that you're feeling at that point in time, whether that's how you're feeling physically, like do you have a headache? Do you have strains? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Put names and labels to the sensations and the feelings that oftentimes are overlooked in our hectic, busy daily lives. And the more that you ask yourself, the more that you give yourself the opportunity, the space to respond, the more that you are now delving into the practice of stillness, because stillness is about presence. It's about that inner awareness that a lot of us overlook because we're just not taught how to tap into it. And now when we start to develop an awareness of our own physical form, of our own physical needs, of our own physical states, with a lot of us it goes overlooked, like we don't know until something is horribly wrong, then we can go a step deeper. And a step deeper is really being mindful of our breath, right? It's about mental stillness, right? So first it's about physical stillness, like getting in your body is the first step to practicing stillness, in my opinion. And the second step is mental stillness. And how you practice mental stillness is by focusing on your breathing, but not just any kind of breathing. You're going to be intentionally breathing in and out of your nose, deep breaths in, deep breaths out, maybe count to 5 in, count to 5 out. And in that, you are cultivating mental stillness because your mind, everything is focused on taking these deep intentional breaths. And if you can hold that and hold those deep intentional breaths for 5 to 10 minutes, if you can meditate while holding intentional breaths, not only are you just meditating, you're finding yourself in an experience of mental stillness. And so for all of us who have bouncing priorities, who are juggling different hats, different roles, a lot of the times this is something that we completely deprioritize. But if you want to make sure that you don't burn out, if you want to give yourself fuel, if you want to refuel, then mental stillness, physical stillness are absolutely required. And I am someone who believes you can live any life you want. You can live any intensity you want, but you have to incorporate incorporate stillness. If you want to make sure that you're not burning at both ends of the wick, then you need to incorporate stillness in your life. You need to give yourself an opportunity to be present and to practice presence. And in practicing presence, we refuel, we re-energize, and we give ourselves an opportunity to not only get aligned, but to be aware of like what's the best thing for us to do. Because a lot of the times the questions we ask outwards and the advice that we're seeking, sometimes it's not advice that anyone can give us but ourselves, but we don't know what that information would be. We can't tap into that inner wisdom without that first step of stillness, and that's really, really important. And so next stage of stillness for me is a meditative stillness, and this for me helps me tap into my spiritual stillness and helps me tap into my innermost profound self, like into my soul, for lack of a better term. And so this is meditation. And so for me, I don't really do guided meditations because my meditation is really about an experience that is about my inner states of being, like my inner being, my inner identity, essentially. And so when I meditate, I want to go into my psyche, right? I want to go super deep, super inward. And that comes with first the physical stillness and the mental stillness. And from there, like once you are able to find alignment in both physical and mental stillness, you start to experience this spiritual stillness, right? And so with the spiritual stillness, then you find yourself this peace. And in that peace, you find such clarity about what your needs are and how it is that you need to go about accomplishing them. And I have to say that it is in this practice, in the most stressful, high intensity situation that I have found myself in. A lot of people, I'm sure, if they were watching, like, okay, like she's running for her life, like she's in a high stress, high intense situation. Like, why is she pulling out her yoga mat and doing a yoga workout? Why is she meditating? Why is she doing all of these practices that seem to signify that she's not aware of the sense of urgency that the situation calls? And it's because I recognize that sometimes counter intuition is like deep wisdom. And I think that when things are very high stress, when you find yourself losing control or recognizing that you have zero control of the world around you, then you need to get very serious about cultivating the muscles to develop the locus of control within you. And how you cultivate that locus of control within you is by first practicing that physical stillness, the mental stillness, and then the spiritual stillness. You need to go inward, and I want to focus so much more on our channel about the practice of going inward, about the practice of getting that sense of inner alignment, of operating from a place of clarity, because I think too many of us have discounted it and don't do it, and it's stressing us out and it's making ourselves sick. And so that for me has been really the recipe of health in some of the most unhealthy, most uncomfortable situations that I have found myself in and have been able to get myself out of as well. And not just alone, but with my community, but in my community, like it's really about authenticity, and we can't find ourselves to authenticity without first practicing presence. We can't find ourselves towards authenticity if we don't know who we are and how we are in the different situations and stages and phases that life brings us through. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I want to have a quick chat about stillness, about the significance, the importance of stillness, especially if we lead high intensity, highly stressful lives. And I hope that you take some of these nuggets of wisdom that I have learned in my own life experience, you put them into practice, and let me know how they work and how they apply for you. And again, like to each their own, make it your own practice. I didn't get super detailed about how to do it because I think that for each of us it's going to translate a little bit differently. We're all unique as our fingerprints, but give it a try. Focus on how you get that sense of alignment, how you find yourself having that sense of stillness, and from that point of stillness, like what it is that you find out about yourself that enables you to push through some of the things that you're going through. So that's the topic of conversation for today. And if you're interested in self-discovery and self-mastery and find that inner alignment, then join our conversations. We do host live events twice a month, every month for the foreseeable future on our web page, on our website. So definitely check those out. And if you are interested in joining our Game Changer community, then check out the membership that we have available on our website as well. And as it relates to my personal situation, the stalking situation that I alluded to at some points during this conversation, it is still ongoing, but you will be the first to know when I do. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk to you all very soon. We'll talk to you later.